The fact that you just traded on that proves that you can't be trusted.
Hands in the air. Turn around slowly.
I cannot believe you just asked me that.
You respected me enough not to lie to my face.
We took that final step and lived to tell the tale.
Port Charles has seen its share of vengeance. It has weathered mob wars, medical conspiracies, and resurrections that defied every law of nature. But what's coming next may be unlike anything this town has ever faced, because this time, the man at the center of the storm isn't driven by greed, power, or territory. He's driven by something far more dangerous. He's driven by grief. And when a man with Sidwell's resources, Sidwell's connections, and Sidwell's cold, calculating mind loses the one thing he truly loved, the fallout doesn't just shake one family. It threatens to detonate an entire city. The question isn't whether Sidwell will strike. The question is who will be left standing when the smoke finally clears. Stay with us, because this is one storyline you absolutely cannot afford to miss. Welcome back to General Hospital Media, your go-to place for the latest General Hospital drama, spoilers, and storyline updates. Whether you're here for the breakdowns, the behind-the-scenes buzz, or the hottest spoilers straight out of Port Charles, you've come to the right place. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on, because the storylines we're covering right now are moving fast, and you don't want to be the last one to know what's happening. Now, let's get into it. The General Hospital writing team has been building towards something massive for weeks, and fans who have been paying close attention already knew something seismic was on the horizon. The spoilers surrounding Sidwell's arc have been generating enormous conversation across social media, fan forums, and YouTube comment sections alike. But now that the emotional core of this storyline has finally been revealed, the grief, the rage, and the terrifying clarity of purpose that comes with it, the entire fanbase is holding its collective breath. This isn't just a villain of the week story. This is a long game narrative that promises to reshape the landscape of Port Charles in ways that will be felt for months to come. The title says it all. Sidwell's grief has been unleashed, and no one in this town is truly safe. To understand where Sidwell is right now, we have to go back and acknowledge what brought him to this breaking point. Sidwell has never been a character who wears his emotions on his sleeve. From his very first scenes, he was written as a man of calculation, someone who operates 3 steps ahead, who speaks softly because he doesn't need to raise his voice to make his point. He had power, he had leverage, and for a long time, he had control over every variable in his world. That made him formidable. That made him dangerous in a quiet, patient way that many Port Charles residents underestimated. But even the most guarded people have a vulnerability. And for Sidwell, that vulnerability was personal. The loss he has now suffered and the circumstances surrounding it have stripped away every layer of composure he spent years constructing. What remains isn't just anger. It's something colder, something more deliberate. Grief, when it hardens into resolve, becomes one of the most unstoppable forces in any soap opera universe, and General Hospital is leaning into that truth with every scene Sidwell appears in. The writers have done something particularly smart here. They've made Sidwell sympathetic enough that viewers understand his pain, even as they watch him make choices that are morally inexcusable. That's the hallmark of great soap opera storytelling, moral complexity that keeps you invested even when you know the character is crossing lines. The most recent episodes have been nothing short of electric when it comes to Sidwell's arc. The shift in his demeanor was immediate and impossible to ignore. Where he once moved through Port Charles like a chess grandmaster, patient, controlled, unbothered, he now carries the weight of someone who has decided he has nothing left to lose. And that shift changes everything about how dangerous he is. In a scene that has quickly become one of the most talked about moments of the week, Sidwell made it devastatingly clear that the rules he previously operated under no longer apply to him. The people he once considered off limits, the boundaries he once respected out of professional courtesy or personal code, all of that has been burned to the ground along with whatever hope he had left. Watching him deliver that message was chilling precisely because there was no theatrics involved. No raised voice, no dramatic monologue. Just a quiet, bone-deep certainty that sent a chill through every character in the room and through every viewer watching at home. The ripple effects of his grief are already touching characters across the canvas. Those who have had any association with the circumstances of his loss are now firmly in his crosshairs, whether they know it or not. And some of the most beloved figures in Port Charles are uncomfortably close to the blast radius. Connections are being drawn. Threads that seemed unrelated are pulling tight. The writers are clearly threading this needle with purpose, making sure that Sidwell's wrath isn't random. It's targeted, it's personal, and it's rooted in a logic that makes it all the more terrifying. There's also a fascinating dimension to how Sidwell's grief is affecting the people around him who might have once considered themselves allies. In the world of Port Charles, alliances are always conditional, and Sidwell's current state of mind is making even his closest associates deeply uneasy. When the most controlled person in the room suddenly stops caring about consequences, everyone around that person has to reassess their own position fast. We're already seeing the early signs of that scramble, and it's creating some extraordinarily tense scenes. Meanwhile, on the other side of the equation, Port Charles's usual line of defense is in a complicated position. The people who might ordinarily stand between a man like Sidwell and the damage he's determined to do are dealing with their own entanglements, their own secrets, and their own moral compromises that leave them less prepared than they'd like to be. The timing couldn't be worse. Or better, if you're a fan of high-stakes drama, which, if you're watching General Hospital, you absolutely are. The fan response to this storyline has been overwhelming, and the enthusiasm across social media is entirely justified. General Hospital's fanbase is one of the most passionate and analytically sharp audiences in daytime television, and they are not sleeping on what's happening with Sidwell right now. The conversation online has been a fascinating mix of awe, dread, and genuine emotional investment. A significant number of fans have been vocal about how the portrayal of Sidwell's grief is landing in a way that feels authentic and earned rather than manufactured for shock value. Comments praising the performance and the writing for this arc are everywhere, with many fans noting that this is exactly the kind of layered, emotionally grounded storytelling that keeps them coming back to General Hospital year after year. There's a real sense that the show is operating at a high level right now. Of course, speculation is running absolutely wild. Fan theories about who Sidwell will go after first, who might be able to reach him before he goes too far, and whether any redemption is even possible at this point are flooding every corner of the internet. Some fans are convinced that a surprising alliance will emerge out of necessity, that someone with their own complicated history will step up in an unexpected way to confront the threat Sidwell poses. Others are equally convinced that the damage will have to be done before anyone truly understands the scope of what they're dealing with. The debate is fierce, and it's exactly the kind of fan energy that makes following a show like this so rewarding. What makes this storyline so structurally powerful is the way it reframes Sidwell as a character. For most of his time in Port Charles, he has functioned primarily as an external threat, a force that other characters react to and work against. But now, by centering his grief and giving the audience access to the pain that's fueling his actions, the writers have transformed him into something more complex. He's still a threat. He may be a greater threat than ever, but he's also a tragedy in motion, and that duality is endlessly compelling. There's also something thematically resonant about a character who spent so long controlling everything around him being undone by the one thing that couldn't be controlled: loss. General Hospital has always been a show that understands the relationship between love and destruction, and Sidwell's arc is exploring that territory with admirable boldness. The grief is real, the wrath is real, and the consequences are going to be very, very real for a lot of people in that town. From a narrative standpoint, this storyline is doing something else incredibly valuable. It's creating urgency across multiple front lines simultaneously. Because Sidwell's reach is wide and his grievances are deep, almost no corner of the canvas is untouched by what's unfolding. That kind of sprawling, interconnected storytelling is General Hospital at its finest, reminding viewers why this show has endured for decades and why its ensemble structure, when used well, is one of the most effective storytelling tools in television. Looking ahead, the spoilers and setup suggest that things are going to escalate significantly before they show any sign of resolution. The coming episodes are expected to bring some confrontations that fans have been anticipating for a long time. Moments where the truth about what happened and who bears responsibility for Sidwell's loss will be forced into the open. Those revelations have the potential to be genuinely shocking, and the writers appear to be building toward them with real deliberateness. There is also growing speculation that Sidwell's rampage will inadvertently push together characters who have been on opposite sides of various conflicts throughout the season. Nothing unifies people like a shared threat. And if Sidwell's wrath is as indiscriminate as the early signs suggest, the unlikely alliances that form in response could be among the most interesting character dynamics the show has given us in quite some time. Keep your eyes on those relationships, because the unexpected pairings that emerge from crisis moments in Port Charles have a way of becoming the defining stories of entire eras. There's also the question of whether anyone close to Sidwell, someone who understood him before grief reshaped him, will make a meaningful attempt to pull him back from the edge. That kind of storyline, when done right, carries enormous emotional weight, and General Hospital has the cast to execute it beautifully. Whether the show goes in that direction or commits fully to the consequences of Sidwell's path will tell us a lot about where this story is ultimately headed. One thing is virtually certain. The next several weeks are going to be must-watch television for General Hospital fans. The table has been set, the stakes have been established, and the characters are in position. All that's left is the devastation, and based on everything we've seen so far, it is going to be spectacular. To bring it all together, Sidwell's grief has ignited one of the most compelling and emotionally charged storylines General Hospital has introduced this season. A man who once operated from a place of cold control has been fundamentally transformed by loss, and what he's become in the aftermath is both heartbreaking and genuinely terrifying. Poor Charles is not prepared for what's coming, and the characters who stand in Sidwell's path are about to find that out in the most dramatic ways possible. The performances are delivering, the writing is purposeful, and the fan reaction confirms what the show clearly already knows. This is exactly the kind of story that reminds everyone why General Hospital remains one of the most enduring dramas in television history. So what do you think? Is Sidwell the most dangerous man in Port Charles right now? Or do you think someone is going to step up and get through to him before it's too late? Who do you think is most at risk from his wrath? And is there any chance of redemption waiting on the other side of all this pain? We want to hear your theories, your predictions, and your reactions in the comment section below. This fan base has some of the sharpest minds in daytime television, and the conversation in the comments is always one of the best parts of covering this show. Drop your thoughts. Let us know what you're hoping to see in the coming episodes, and let's talk General Hospital. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It genuinely helps the channel and lets us know you want more content like this. And if you haven't subscribed to General Hospital Media yet, now is absolutely the time, because this storyline is just getting started and we are going to be covering every twist, every turn, and every shocking moment right here. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.